Hello and welcome, I'm Dante from Low Manor, and today I'm doing something a little different. Rather than run down a specific feature or lore, I wanted to give you my thoughts on why I have hope for BioWare's next game, Anthem, as I've had quite a few questions about why I think it has potential. Even though the game is still months out and almost no one has got to play it, or even seen the full gameplay, what we have seen and heard from those that have is that it plays better than anything we've been shown. Which to me, at least for now, is a sign that BioWare just haven't done a great job of showing the game. So what specifically gives me hope for Anthem? At the core, it's the mentality we've seen from the developers and the methodology they have chosen. Remember, Anthem has been in production for 6 years, and we're only just starting to see what they've been working on. The way in which they've built the world is very reminiscent of what I would expect from an old BioWare game. When we look back at what some would consider the best RPGs ever made, such as Mass Effect, that world is focused on sci-fi and how Earth fits into it after reaching an incredibly advanced state. Includes multiple races with rich histories, with motives for all sides that make sense. Which is something a lot of modern games, some which our competitors have not been able to achieve. There is a reason Destiny's story has been retconned multiple times. The developers even admit they had a rough idea of what things like the darkness were. This isn't the case with Anthem. They have taken the Mass Effect approach, built up from how the world was created, what are the rules of the world, how this leads to humans being involved. The separate factions, their priorities, reasoning, all have their own independent goals based on their individual principles. Granted, we are yet to see this in action, but until we see more, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. This mentality isn't just related to the story though, it carries over into the gameplay itself. Each javelin is based on an aspect of the world, linked to technology we don't know how to create but adopted from pre-existing machines in the world. Javelins are generally pretty rare, hand-built, unique to the pilot and mechanics that maintain them, which travels over into the mechanics of the game. It gives a reason for why we can customize them, why we are chasing new gear from enemies and relics, and on top of all that, we have the narrative experience of BioWare for a personal experience which has been a significant focus. I think we can all agree that the core stories of their competition is shaky at best. They are taking a unique approach, one that I'm curious to see in action. Even if somewhat limited to its previous renditions from older series, that probably fits into the world better. Jamming in depth multiple options for every NPC along with romances and other larger decisions don't make as much sense when the time frame for the content is much longer. We shouldn't be thinking of the story as a 10-hour campaign that wraps up, but as an introduction to the core story, and that continues to unfold over years. We will still have friendships we can develop, crew members to side with, long-lasting changes that affect our personal hubs. We get the personal stories that make these games meaningful and memorable, but we get to play actual mechanics with our friends, or make new friends as our journey unfolds. Does this have the potential to fail? Of course, but it's a fresh approach that I think could define the genre going forward. If not, then we'll have our interesting story and move on. To me, what's really going to make or break the longevity, story aside, is the core gameplay loop, and how what they are calling the Elder Game links into it. We already know all the javelins, which essentially make the classes of the game, along with what they focus on, even if we don't have the fine details. What equipment can they use? What and how many abilities do they choose from, and what kind of roles is yet to be determined. But I can say with confidence, a Colossus is going to have heavier weapons, and is likely to have more armor than a Storm, that will use more magic-based attacks. Yes, these are going to be important details, but again, BioWare has a strong history of establishing class identities. Personally, I really hope we see something similar to Mass Effect, where even if we use some abilities, our skill trees can alter how it functions, change its focus. Take Singularity for example. Do you want to focus on doing a larger radius damage, or make more focused attack that strip armor? The same abilities, but very different purposes. We already know that there is an element system allowing for combos, which again is something they have been doing for years, and is another mechanic that games of this genre have been pretty lazy with. These class fantasies are able to be focused. Anthem won't have PvP, even though it's possible down the line. I think this is a great idea, and here's why. Balancing games is imperative. Everyone wants to feel powerful and meaningful. We want to feel like we progress as we level and the new items change how we play. Why is this an issue with PvP? Because you are balancing for two completely opposed audiences. PvP needs balance between the classes, the weapons, the combos, etc. while also being interesting in boss encounters and PvP environments. The focus for each isn't even close, so by focusing on PvE, BioWare are free to explore far more interesting effects from items, which is crucial for the most important mechanics the game will have, the loot. When you think of great loot, you think of what makes items unique. You think of Borderlands, you think of Diablo and Warframe. Each of these games do loot in different ways, but all share creativity and player choice. Borderlands has millions of possible loot drops. Diablo has unique set effects, game-altering legendaries, super rare ancient items. Warframe has large numbers of frames and weapons to master, mods that can completely alter how a weapon shoots, its damage, its synergy. Just choice, so much choice. If Anthem accepts this variety, and ability to alter play and combine it with interactions from other player loadouts, even if the item pool isn't as deep as some of these games, the foundations will be there. Obviously, for any of this to matter, getting the items has to be fun. We already know you'll be able to have multiple loadouts, for multiple javelins, so the perception is that there's enough choice to warrant it. From what we know so far, we will have our story missions, strongholds, world bosses, world events and raids at a minimum, with a crafting system built on top of these systems. So the options are there, and if the loot scales to the difficulty of the activity, and there are worthwhile items within the drops and crafting to work towards, I can really see a decent endgame system being in place. But, of course, I have my reservations, until the team comes out later this year with a full breakdown of what they have planned. One of the main concerns I see for Anthem is that it's published by EA, who we can all agree have some reprehensible business practices and monetization models. Their obsession with leaning on loot boxes as a crutch for profits has severely crippled some of their games. Some such as FIFA still get away with it. That said, Battlefront 2 sent a signal to them that there is a line the core base will not cross, and they went well over it. As a result, they have drastically reduced their presence in the newer titles, which we are already seeing the initial waves from. Games that have for years had season passes and loot boxes have had them removed either partially or completely. Battlefield, for example, has had an annoying season pass bumping up its cost for its content for years. Now it's gone. No more splitting the community, everyone gets access to all the maps, moving instead to a focus of a long-term cosmetic option, which for now is completely earnable in-game. Anthem is very much along these lines. It has been confirmed multiple times that there will be no loot boxes, no season pass. This time they are keeping it simple, no segmenting the player base. Yes, there will be microtransactions, but importantly they are just cosmetic and can all be earned from playing the game. This is a pay-to-skip model in a way, but limited to cosmetics, which is a far cry from the rampant use of season passes and loot boxes. This is a positive change, and I trust for now that BioWare will stick to this. As we learn more about these mechanics, the lore of the game, the skill trees, and just the content in general, I'm sure my thoughts on each will change with them. But I, at least for now, have hope, and recognise the potential it has, and BioWare certainly has the ability to execute upon them. What I would like to end on is some advice that applies to any game. Don't pre-order. Wait until you can try it and find someone you share or respect the opinion of, whether that be me or one of the other many community members, reviewers and fellow gamers out there. I'll be following the development closely, and as we start to see the game come together, I'll be sharing my thoughts, building together the lore and mechanics as we learn them. I'm curious to hear what your concerns are, and if you're excited, and if you think there are things I've overlooked. I'm always open to discussion, so please do let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching this video. It's a bit different to what I normally make, but I would love to know what you think. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to support the channel, and use the little bell for notifications as content goes live. Until next time, I've been Dante, thanks for watching.